everybody. Welcome to Furthermore with Amanda Head and another one of our Small Business Saturday episodes. I'm very excited about the products that we are highlighting today and the craftsman who makes them. He has been, I call him a friend. I've never actually met him in person. He's one state over in Arizona, but he makes some of the most spectacular items by hand. He and his wife too, actually. So you're going to hear all about that. His name is Michael John Brown, and you can find him on Instagram. That is actually how I found him. And I actually commissioned him to make a number of custom items for me, both leather and wood. So we're going to get into that in just a moment on the other side of these commercials. Welcome, everybody. I am delighted to bring in, I feel like he's a friend. I've never met him in person, but I've corresponded with him for a long time. He's made a number of amazing items for me in conjunction with his wife, actually, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. I found him on Instagram. Michael John Brown, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to do this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I honestly, I think back to when maybe you started following me first on Instagram, or I started following. I think maybe someone had a holster of yours that you had made, which we're going to get into that side of things, your business side of things shortly. But I love everything you do and everything you stand for, you and your wife, your wonderful, wonderful wife, Amy, as well. But I just want to give everybody an idea of your background. This podcast, this Saturday series is about supporting small businesses and getting the word out there and bringing support to you. But it's also about giving some background on small business owners, because you guys are just, I mean, you're the lifeblood of this country. So take it away, sir.
Well, thank you. Well, I guess my background, I was in the U.S. Army as a military police officer back when actually Ronald Reagan was president, and was on a special reaction team. It was one of the first, they needed SWAT teams for the military police. So they didn't have a curriculum. So we were trained by the FBI, CIA. We went to Baltimore County SWAT school. I was stationed in Maryland at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. So started doing that. And I was in actually during the Grenada, the Operation Urgent Fury, when Ronald Reagan sent troops there to liberate Grenada from the Cuban military. There was like a coup in 1979, and so in '83 they went in. I didn't go. I actually stayed stateside, and the SWAT team was tasked with guarding the airfield when they brought the C-5s in, loaded with all that Soviet equipment. And it was miraculous how much they brought in. Those C-5s are amazing. Just standing underneath and watching tanks roll out and armored personnel carriers and helicopters. It's incredible. But they really brought a lot in. So I spent 2 years in active duty and 4 reserve. As far as Arizona goes, I was born in Phoenix and grew up in Tucson. Yeah, and now I'm back in Vail, Arizona.
Wonderful. And you met Amy where and how?
I met Amy at church 32 years ago, and we've been married ever since.
I love that. Church, literally the best place to meet. Although I was having a conversation with a Gen Zer earlier this afternoon, or actually earlier this week, and she was talking about how awful the dating scene is, and I was like, honestly, it kind of makes you miss the good old days when people just met at bars rather than online, and it was just all about hookup culture. So I think the church is the best place to meet people, although I feel like at this point, for the youngest generation who's doing everything online at this point, I would take a bar relationship as well. Anyway.
But isn't it nice to not be in that world anymore?
let me tell you, when my husband and I met and started dating in 2014, I always make the joke that, you know, it was the end of 2014 and 2015 when Tinder and all of that stuff blew up. So my husband and I thankfully never had to experience any of that, and we feel like we caught the last chopper out of Vietnam before all of that stuff just blew up. So we're very thankful that we met the good old traditional way. He was on a TV show with a friend of mine, and this friend was like, "Hey, I think you guys would be good together." And lo and behold, 5 years of marriage and 10 years of dating
Oh,
later,
that's awesome.
here we
That's
are.
awesome.
Okay, I want to get into some of the things that you have experienced with the VA because, over the life of my career in politics, I started my career in politics in 2016. So technically, Barack Obama was still in office, but it was really kind of the heat of the election season between Donald Trump and Hillary. And then Trump came into office, and I've had numerous conversations with a number of his secretaries of Veterans Affairs, and then, of course, now what has transpired under Biden. And I think that President Trump made major efforts and minor gains with respect to the VA. And he had people like Secretary O'Rourke who were really, really supporting him in reforming the VA, firing people who were incompetent, and kind of, slimlining a lot of the process. But I know for you, your experiences with the VA, the injuries and the ailments that you have had to deal with, from what I've heard from you, and it's been limited, it's just been via text message and such, but it sounds like it's been a nightmare for you. Can you just kind of tell everybody about it?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say, as far as President Trump, I really feel like he possibly saved my life. I was
Mm.
actually battling cancer in 2017, 18, and through the Veterans Choice Program, I was able to go outside the VA and get excellent care from a neurologist. They did surgery, and I'm
Wow.
cancer free now.
Oh, praise God. Praise
Yeah,
God.
praise God for that. So, and also the Tucson VA has really been pretty good. I mean, overall, I've had really good care there. All the technicians, well, except for one nurse that I'll get into, but everybody's been pretty good. I just had just one incident that was just so bizarre. October of 2020, I went in for back surgery. They were going to do a fusion of my S1, L5S1 vertebrae. Um, and so they did the surgery, and in recovery, it was less than 24 hours later. A nurse came in, and I'd seen her in my room a couple times, and she was doing an IV push of Dilaudid, I assume. And I think she thought maybe I was asleep, but she was talking to herself, and she said, "I shouldn't be doing this. I'm a horrible person." And I said, "Why are you a horrible person?" And she left the room. And the next thing I know, I'm surrounded by a team of nurses and doctors. They had oxygen on me. It took them 2 doses of Narcan to revive me.
Oh my gosh.
A nurse had found me unresponsive. He said my eyes were open, just staring at the ceiling, and I wasn't breathing. So he, I guess, gave me an IV push. I think he said potassium to keep my heart moving until they could get the Narcan administered. So this was really upsetting, obviously. And then come to find out the surgery was a disaster. I can feel about a quarter, maybe a third of my left leg now. So
Oh my
there was
goodness.
either nerves cut or crushed or something, I don't know. Um, so after the surgery, the pain was incredible. And I want to touch on this. There's a real problem in the VA and probably in private healthcare as well, as far as the people that are really in pain being treated as if you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
And I was in excruciating pain, and I had a VA doctor saying, "No, you're not in pain. You just had surgery. You just want the pills." I said, "Look, there's something that's gone terribly wrong with the surgery."
Yeah.
And I went to the emergency room, and they did an MRI, and they came back, and they says, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong." I said, "This is not possible. My pain is so bad." So I went home. They gave me some pills. I went home. I think 7 days later, I went back to the emergency room. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Mm.
And I don't want to get somebody in trouble here, but so they said, "We're going to do another MRI." I said, "Well, we just did one." They said, "Well, we're going to do another protocol to do another one." because of the pain I was in.
Mhm.
So I'm in a wheelchair and I'm sitting outside the control room of the MRI department. They had somebody else in the tube, and the guy from the control room says, "Mr. Brown, are they telling you where your pain's coming from?" And I said, "No, they're not telling me, and I think they're BSing me. I don't, because something's wrong." He wheeled me into the control room and he showed me on a screen. He said, "That's where your pain's coming from." My L5, L4 disc had come out and was hanging like an
Oh my
elephant trunk
gosh.
pressing against my spinal cord. He said, "That's where your pain's." I said, "Why are they lying to me?" He says, "I don't know." He says, "I'll put this on a disc for you so you'll have it." Well, so I needed another surgery.
Yeah.
And because of COVID, they said we can't do surgery. So I started looking outside the VA through the Veterans Choice Program to get surgery. Well, once I told the VA that, they got me in the next day,
Mhm.
but I couldn't stay overnight. They did the surgery and I had to go right home. Yeah. So,
Good.
so they removed an inch and a half of that disc. And I've had 4 back surgeries. So that's the second microdiscectomy that I've had at that level, which I don't know how much of the disc I've got left. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I live in chronic pain. I was doing everything I could to manage it, including self-medicating with alcohol,
Mm.
and that was just unsustainable. I had gained a bunch of weight. And I knew that I had to get the weight off to get. I was worried about that disc. How much disc do I have
Yeah.
left?
Yeah.
It's called adjacent disc disease when you have a fusion, and the disc above it is holding everything.
Oh.
So, and that's the one I've had 2 surgeries at, and they removed an inch and a half of it. I'm like, which he said
Whoa.
that. I'm like, how much? How big is a disc? It can't be bigger, much bigger than that.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know what's holding me up, but I'm able to walk. I limp a little bit, but praise God, I'm able to walk. But I
Are you
was,
in pain a lot?
yeah, I work and then I stop and rest. I lay on my back, I put my knees up, which is a form of decompression, and I
Mhm.
rest until that pain subsides, and then I get back to work. I also
Yeah.
have the VA gave me, it's called a thermozone, where I wrap it around my lower back and I can run hot or cold water through it, which really is, I use it every day. So
Yeah.
sometimes in the morning, but every night, just about every night.
Yeah.
So so yeah, that's where I'm at. But I wanted to talk about uh recovering from that and my faith. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna lose weight.
Mhm.
And I've heard the best way to do that is fasting. And I know the Bible talks about fasting in several
Yep.
places, and I
Yeah.
never really understood it. It's like, what does God want us to fast for? I
Yeah.
mean, what good is it? So I'm going to go hungry for a day or two. I didn't see a benefit in that, but
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to try it to lose weight. So I, instead of a spiritual aspect, I was going to do a physical aspect, you know.
Yeah.
So I fasted for a day, and I noticed something that at the end of that fast, the 24 hours, I felt really good, almost like a spiritual benefit to it. And then I noticed, because I denied myself for 24 hours, I mean, food's right there in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and you want the hunger to go away. So you're drinking more water, and um, so you develop this like self control.
Mhm.
And then I did a 3-day fast, and that really opened up my eyes. And I was still drinking at the time,
Yeah.
but I didn't drink during the fast. Um, and I thought, okay, if I can get through 3 days of denying myself that comfort of eating, as far as alcohol goes, I noticed my time to drink was around 4 p.m. is when I'd start wanting to, and at 8 p.m. So that 4 hour block of time, once that was up, you know, I was ready to start sleeping or going to bed. I thought, gosh, if I can go 3 days and deny myself, I can get through 4 hours of not drinking.
Yeah.
And it was tough because I really couldn't manage in life without it. I used to work construction. I was a general contractor. I built swimming pools and I had subcontractors and it was super stressful. So I would drink to shut my mind off so I could stop thinking about jobs and subcontractors.
Yeah.
So I did a 21-day alcohol fast and I never looked back. I have absolutely no desire to drink. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong. If somebody can enjoy wine or a beer without it becoming a problem, I got no problem with that. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but if you're self-medicating, if you're
Mm.
depressed, it's the worst thing you can do. Some of
Yeah.
my absolute darkest moments in life were being using alcohol, wanting to give up on life. I mean,
Yep.
I went to some dark places, and that alcohol was the common denominator.
Yeah.
So since I don't drink anymore, I tell Amy all the time, like every evening, I'm like, gosh, Amy, I'm so glad I don't drink anymore. I just
Yeah.
can't imagine drinking it again. And she's so thankful. She prayed for me. Oh man, Amy has been a rock. She has been there for me through thick and thin, driving me to doctor appointments, sitting in waiting rooms. During COVID, she had to sit out in the parking lot in the car. I don't know where I'd be without her.
Mm.
She's really amazing. I'm so
Mm.
blessed to have a good wife of
Yeah.
30 plus years.
I tell you what, a good wife or a good husband and a good marriage, that is one of the most healthy, stabilizing, joyful factors that you can have in life. And on the fasting notion, for us as believers, for we as believers, there is such an incredible spiritual component to fasting and truly fasting. I intermittent fast. I really only eat
Yeah,
dinner.
I do every day.
Yeah, I have a cup and a half or 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and then I just eat a really substantial dinner. I don't really even consider that fasting anymore though, because I don't really get hungry during the day. It's just kind of
Right,
what
me
I've
too.
trained. Yeah, but physiologically speaking, and set aside the spiritual side of things, even in the natural. I mean, there is study after study after study that shows how beneficial fasting is. A friend of ours, this is a true story. 1 degree of separation from my audience to this person because he is one of our dear friends in church. He fasted for 10 days and all of his allergies went away.
Wow.
And I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I am not giving medical advice, but there are even a lot of studies that show with respect to cancer reduction,
Hmm.
fasting and the starving of cancer cells. And the
Hmm.
medical establishment won't tell you that because they want you to be on the chemo and the radiation carousel. And this is something that I think has become a really heightened conversation among conservatives because of, RFK and a lot of people watched that Tucker Carlson interview with Casey and Callie Means, but the chronic illness issue and so much of that can be taken, at least reduced with some of these natural world things that have been around literally since biblical times. I mean, we have this
Right.
prescription in the Bible, and people are like fasting. Oh, that's so dumb. I mean, people think that the benefits of fasting, both spiritually and naturally, have gone away or something. It's like the same thing that they feel about miracles and laying on hands and healing and casting out demons, that somehow went away in the third century with the
Right.
apostles or something. It's crazy. Anyway, I don't mean to get on that bandwagon. I want to get
Well,
into
let me
some.
just say,
Yeah, go
from
for it.
what I understand, on the physical side of fasting, I mean, after 18 hours, your body goes into what's called autophagy,
Right.
and it actually starts to consume damaged proteins in the
Yep.
body.
Yep.
So it resets your immune system. It can consume cancer cells as fuel. So
Yep.
there's a cure for cancer. And it involves, I'm not saying that fasting will cure all cancers, but they are finding that in conjunction with other medications and fasting, that autophagy is amazing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So here we're told to fast. And I'm like, well, for what? And it turns out it's amazing for my self
Yeah.
control, my mental health,
Yeah.
my physical health. I've lost almost 50 pounds of weight.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Well, I don't eat sugar, no
Good
sugar.
for you. Good for you.
I will have two teaspoons of honey every day.
Mm,
So there is some glucose. I don't go crazy keto diet. I did it first, but I have like a slice of sourdough bread with my lunch. I don't eat until like 1 p.m.
hmm
But it's amazing. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so we're told to fast, and here's all these incredible benefits.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm very grateful that it's starting to become an accepted conversation at this point, especially as a solution or an alternative to traditional Western medicine and treatments and such. I'm very, very glad for that. Okay, you know what? Actually, we've got to take a quick break. We're going to be back on the other side with Michael John Brown. Welcome back, everybody. I am here with Michael John Brown. Everybody, go find him on Instagram. You will find all of the incredible things that he has made. My producers are going to insert some pictures of some of the things that he has made for me. He made me a beautiful custom holster that has the state of Alabama flag because, yes, obviously, I live here in Los Angeles, but Alabama will always be my home. And also an awesome cast iron skillet handle
Oh, that's right.
cover.
I forgot about that.
Because let me tell you, but I love cooking with cast iron. I'm trying to remember the name of the brand. It starts with a W. Anyway, it was my grandmother, so it's like 100 years old and it's beautifully seasoned. Um, and so I have that handle cover, and then also most recently you made me that spectacular mesquite bowl that I can't wait to use for a plethora of things. So you have such craftsmanship in so many different areas. Everybody go find him on Instagram. His handle is Michael_John_Brown, all spelled the traditional way. And you can also go to my Instagram, and I'm going to post the bowl picture very soon, but you can scroll through my Instagram and find the picture that I posted of the holster. But Michael, I want to get into another facet of you, apart from being a cancer survivor, a veteran, a husband, a believer, a craftsman, and you also have dabbled in acting. Tell us about it.
Yeah. I when I was in the army, funny story. I had a camera when we were going through all that training with the FBI, Baltimore County SWAT School. Um, I was taking a lot of pictures. I was the only one taking pictures. I just wanted to document everything because it was just really
Yeah.
cool, and they let me do it. So that my nickname, Baltimore County SWAT team, they gave me the nickname Hollywood because I was always taking pictures. I've got some really cool pictures of rappelling out of helicopters, out of towers and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, really cool pictures. So when I got out of the army, that's I was in a college program deal in the army where they took like $100 out of my paycheck and then they match it. And so when I go to school, then that would pay for my college. So I
Nice.
studied theater and I studied to be a nursing assistant. But I wanted to be an actor. That was my big dream.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I did some modeling. I looked much younger then.
You look great. Stop it.
But yeah, so I did a lot of like trade show stuff, like Mattel toys. They would do these conventions, and I was
Mm,
like a day player for some of that stuff.
right.
And then I had an agent. I was signed with Robert Black, and I did a Chevy truck commercial. And then let's see from there. Oh, I was always trying to find jobs because my booking agent, was also trying to pursue her career. And
Mm,
I'm like, well, how concerned are you about mine if you're worried about yours?
right. Yeah.
So Amy would find stuff. Like she called me one day. She goes, "Hey, they're filming a Budweiser commercial in Skull Valley." So I call my agent. I'm like, "Why aren't you telling me about this stuff? I ride horses. It's like perfect for me. I'm
Yeah.
looking for like cowboys in this commercial." And oh, okay. I didn't know you were interested. I'm like, well, so I got a part in that. That was shown in Canada. Um, and then I saw they were filming a movie at a bar in Phoenix called Mr. Lucky's. And I thought, at that, I don't think I was with that agency at that time. So I thought, I'm just going to go down there and crash that. I'm
I
just
love
gonna
it.
see if I can get on as an extra. So I go down there and I talk, of course, the production manager stops you at the door, like, "Hey, I'm available if you guys need extras." He says, "Yeah, actually, we do. Come on in." So I was an extra in this movie called Born to Be Wild, and I met this guy, Sam Gutierrez, who was the props guy, and I ended up making him some holsters and some radio
Awesome.
holders and stuff like that. And then, so one day he calls me and said, "Hey, we're doing another film called Dead in Five Heartbeats." And it's actually based on a book that Sonny Barger wrote. It was a bestseller. He's the leader of the Hells Angels.
Wow.
So, or started the Hells Angels.
Yeah.
So he said, "We're looking for a police officer and we want you to come down and audition." So I said, "Okay, send me the sides and I'll, go through them." So I go down to audition, and I was too tall for the guy playing opposite of me. So they said, "No, the guy, the biker opposite of you is to intimidate this police officer." So I was too tall, they said.
Right.
So I thought, okay. So then they call me 2 weeks later, and they said, "Do you want to be like a biker in a bar scene?" They said, "It's just an extra, and this is an independent film, so there won't be any pay." I said, "I just can't. I'm making holsters, and it's just I got to keep working."
Yeah.
So then they call me another week later, and they said, "We want you to audition for a major role. We want you to play um, J.W. McIntosh. He's a corrupt FBI agent, and
Okay.
it turns out he's the antagonist of the film."
Oh.
So they sent me the script, and I had to film my own audition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I learned the lines. Amy read opposite of me from across the table, the other character. So I was trying to send it to them. I had a mini DV camera that I filmed it, and I was trying to get it to them. They're like, "We don't have anything to view tapes." So I said, so my nephew actually put it up on YouTube. Gave them the
Oh.
link. They called. They said, "You're hired. You got the job. You were the only one who went by the script, word for
Uh,
word. None
yeah.
of the other actors did." So, unless anyone actors out there, don't change the lines in your audition unless they ask you to improv, because the writer may be there and he's going to get kind of offended that you wrote it better than he did.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So yeah, I played that, and that was the biggest role. I haven't done anything since, but I would like to do more. I really love.
Yeah.
I would love to do a western. That's
Yeah.
always been my dream, but
My husband and I have been on kind of a modern Western kick. We watched True Grit, There Will Be Blood,
oh,
Two
that's a
Ten to
good one.
Yuma, a lot of these modern Westerns that are just so, so good. And we've been watching them because, as you know, my husband works in Hollywood and he's in the process of developing a film, and he listens to a guy named Roger Deakins podcast, which, Michael, you would probably be interested in this podcast. Roger Deakins is a very, very famous DP, director of photography. So so many, and the reason that we were watching True Grit and There Will Be Blood is because of the cinematography and that, and Roger
Mhm.
Deakins' work on those
Amazing.
films. Yeah, just spectacular. And these night shots, I don't think a lot of people understand how hard it is to capture a night shot with any type of detail, or to make it even vivid and beautiful because of the low light scenario.
Mhm.
But it is truly a skill. Speaking of skills, I want to get into your handiwork. As I mentioned, you have made me two beautiful leather items, a custom holster for my 38 special, which I just absolutely adore. It's in my bedside table. And then also the cast iron skillet handle cover, which has probably saved me many, many more burns. I am very clumsy in the kitchen, so
Oh
people
boy,
can probably see I touch the oven, I touch the stove. I'm pretty reckless in the kitchen, so that has saved me probably more
good.
than a few urgent care visits from searing my hand. But also the most recent creation that I bought from you, this beautiful, beautiful mesquite bowl. And over the process of you making this, you were sending me updates, and obviously we were talking about dimensions and what it would be best for and how to glaze it and cover. Yes. Oh,
I'm
that.
shipping this one this week for you. This is the
Yes.
this is the chip and dip bowl.
I love it.
This is the biggest one I've done. This is 13 inches
It
across.
is so beautiful, and for our
Yeah.
audience watching, the reason that he's got that, we had talked about doing an inner and an outer bowl, but my husband and I, we eat a ton of salsa and guacamole, and with the acidity of those things, it just wouldn't be great for that sitting on the wood. But, over the process of you making these things, you talked to me because I know that you had some machinery issues at one point, but you're using your father's lathe, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, my
that's
father
so
passed
special.
away in 2020. In
Hmm.
fact, he was a master turner. This is the stuff that he would turn.
Wow,
This is
look
a
at that.
this is a segmented bowl. Let me get it in the camera here. You talk about mathematics.
How do you do that? That's
My father
amazing.
was an engineer and a mathematician. He was
Wow.
amazing. Uh, so he loved turning, and then now I've got the lathe, and when I got it, I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to do it because of my back. I was like, how am I going to stand at this lathe?
Right.
And I was even thinking of how can I maybe I can make a harness and strap ropes from the rafters to hold my body
Yeah.
up. I wanted to do it so bad. So I turned a little
Cirque du
bowl once.
Soleil, Michael John Brown.
So I turned a little bowl and I got through it. The pain starts to set in and I stop and I rest. So I just kept building up from there, and I absolutely love it. I have fallen in love with this. There's something about cutting a chunk out of a tree that's fallen in somebody's yard and giving it new life.
Yeah.
But I put it on the lathe, and I don't even know what this bowl is going to look like. I just start cutting into it, and I start to see these curves
Mm,
form, and I like, oh, I like that. I don't like that. I just keep cutting until I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Then I
yeah.
flip it around and do the inside, and it's just so rewarding. I
Yeah.
love making holsters, but I like bowls are more enjoyable.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
And I imagine that, I mean, obviously there is a science part of it, because of the math involved and all of that, but there's such a beautiful art to it as well.
Yeah, there is, like I said, this may sound weird, but sometimes I feel like I'm not alone in
Mm,
turning that bowl.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Maybe the Holy Spirit's like helping me guide, I don't know. But it's
And your dad too, probably.
yeah, that's what my mom thinks.
Yeah.
My mom's still alive, and this she's gonna be thrilled about this interview, especially seeing that my dad's bowl, and she just absolutely
Oh,
over the moon that I'm using the sleigh and then turning bowls with it.
I bet.
You know,
What's your mom's name?
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah.
Mary, you've raised a wonderful son and very talented son. Talk to me a little bit about the process of turning these bowls, because I know, the density of wood is not consistent. You're going to hit some knots and some cracks and things like that. How do you handle that? Is that something where, like, if you hit a crack, you just have to throw it out?
No, not at all. Depending on where the crack is and how far it goes across the bowl blank, you can fill it. Like every bowl I've done has had some cracks in it.
Yeah.
So I've learned you fill it with a CA glue, and you can use coffee,
Oh.
sawdust. You can use epoxies, colored epoxies. I mean, it's in fact when you get an inclusion that's significant, you can really do something really neat with it.
Yeah, I bet.
But you start out with these bowl blanks, these chunks of wood, and if they have a lot of moisture in them, you have to like let it dry. You. It's called
Okay.
twice turn bowl, where
Okay.
you turn it real thick and then you let it dry. I don't have to do that with mesquite. This Chilean mesquite, if I can show you, the grain just goes every direction in this.
Mm, so
So
cool.
it doesn't do what a wood bowl would normally do if the grain was all running one direction.
Hmm.
Because that one direction is where the bowl's going to shrink in one, so it'll end up kind of like a slight oval and
Oh, okay.
crack down those lines.
Okay.
Mesquite doesn't seem to do that. It's so stable. But I turn these really wet.
Okay.
And then they're kind of drying out as I go, and then I put a finish on them. So yeah, it's and I'm so blessed. I had burned through all my firewood, but not burning it, actually making bowls. I was going through a firewood stack. What can I make a bowl?
You
So I
guys are
made
gonna
a
be
bunch of,
cold this winter in the name of your craft.
I made a bunch of small bowls out of little pieces. Look how little this one is.
Oh,
I
that's
made
so
this.
great.
This is bowl number 11,
I love
and
that.
I made that for Amy. So if I compare that to your chip and dip bowl,
Yeah. Oh, wow, look at that. So that would be great for little trinkets or
Amy loves these. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, I love what you said about the imperfections and the cracks in wood because it makes me think of, what the Lord does with people who have imperfections. And when you consider characters in the Bible, um, obviously David is the one that I think of the most, but Cyrus and these flawed characters who the Lord is able to use to do even greater things than those who appear, perfect, and people who appear to adhere to, the law and things like that. I think that's absolutely beautiful. I want to all right, let's commercialize these bowls for a moment because I love talking about the craft of it. But you just showed us the range of what you can make. So you've got that tiny little bowl that could be used for trinkets. That could even almost be like a little salt container in the
Yeah, yeah,
kitchen.
we've got one for that. Yeah, I can do
Yeah.
little ones. Here's one that I did. I don't know if you can see that I actually had a big crack in it that I filled with turquoise.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so these little bowls are great for spices. I've got
I
another
love
one
that.
that I got another one in the kitchen. I should have brought that,
Yeah.
but I use it for salt, you know.
Yes. And I'm one of these people that I don't measure things. I grew up in the South, so my mom was a baker and she made a lot of casseroles and she followed recipes. And I don't know if it's a spirit of rebellion, but I'm not great with the measurement thing. So I'm always doing a pinch of salt, a pinch of salt. And right now I have my salt in a little tagine dish that I bought in Morocco. So it obviously has sentimental meaning for me, but that's incredible. And then so that's the small end of the spectrum. And even when they have imperfections, you can fill it with like that beautiful
Mhm.
one with turquoise. And then at the larger end of the spectrum, the large Chilean mesquite bowl that you just sent me that I'm going to use for, I don't know, I might use it for bread or salad or popcorn or whatever. How big is it across and how deep is it?
That one was 12 inches across the
Uh-huh.
total length and 5.5 inches height.
That's what I thought.
So it's
Yeah.
probably about 5 inches deep.
Right. Okay.
Now that one, that chunk that I cut that out of, well, first this was going to be your salad bowl,
Yes.
but see that knot?
Yeah.
It was huge, and I didn't even think I was going to get through it. But I sold that one, by the way. I got to ship it today.
Nice. Nice.
um, yeah, that chunk of wood was massive, and it was full of moisture. It was so heavy. But
Wow.
I use what they call a face plate. It's a 6-inch face plate that I run 6 screws in, so that really holds it on the lathe while I cut
Yeah.
into it. But it's a slow and violent process when you're
Mm-hmm.
'cause it's not perfectly round. So as that the wide part comes around and hits your tool, but it's just something fun about it because once that chunking is over, and then all of a sudden your tool's smooth cutting all the way. It's so fun.
I love it.
I
I
love
love
it.
it. And I have to, I mean, you guys talk about, I love doing this series because I love supporting small businesses. And I always feel like, obviously you can go on Walmart.com or Amazon and you can buy, cheap crap that's probably going to come from China and it's probably going to have all manner of chemicals and garbage that are toxic to you. It's cheaply made, possibly made by child labor. You just never know. So there are so many reasons that I think that people should support your business specifically, but small businesses in general. But just in the case of these bowls, the one that you sent me, very large, very substantial. I'm going to be able to use that for a million different things for the rest of my life. That thing is going to go get passed down as an heirloom to my children and my grandchildren. And it's the type of thing, it's the type of quality and craftsmanship that, I mean, truthfully, if I purchase something of that quality, of that craftsmanship, of that size and that substance, if I went on Williams Sonoma, it would be 250 bucks. Um, and so I think that people should not only come to you because of the craftsmanship and the quality, but because you you support the things that I think most of my viewers deal with. I want to ask you one final question before we go. And I'm going to send everybody, I'm going to make sure everybody has the link for your Instagram so that they can go and check things out. Harkening back to what you were saying with regards to your experience with the VA, the back problems that you've experienced, the cancer experience that you had. We've got a very, very important election coming up in November. What does it mean? You have experienced the VA under Donald Trump. You have experienced VA policies with being able to reach outside of the VA, thanks to VA choice, thanks to Donald Trump.
Mhm.
What does it mean for you? How important is it to you as a veteran and someone who needs the assistance of the VA? How important is it for you to get Donald Trump back in office?
Well, I'll tell you what, if we don't, I think it's the end of elections.
Yeah.
I am so I'm not worried because of my faith. And let me just say this real quick. As far as all that I've been through and all the suffering I've been through, I'm actually thankful for it because my relationship with Jesus Christ, my Lord, you know, when it says to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength, I was like,
Mm,
how do I didn't quite understand that to really
yeah,
love God.
yeah,
Now I get it. He
yeah,
provides for me every day. And I don't think I would have this deep love for the Lord had I not suffered the way I did. So
yeah.
let me just say
Same.
that. But as far as the VA goes, I hate to say it, but it's almost like one of the least of the we have big problems. I mean, it's if this election isn't done correctly, uh, I don't know. I'm at a
Yeah,
loss for words. I mean,
yeah,
it's so important.
yeah,
I don't know that if they hold on to power, who knows what they're going to do. I
yeah,
really I feel like Donald Trump is our last hope
yeah.
for
I, don't- I
America.
don't, I don't know how this country survives under someone like Kamala
I don't
Harris.
think it does.
Yeah.
You know,
All right. Well, back on a positive note, everybody go find all of his craftsmanship on Instagram. His Instagram handle is Michael_John_Brown. Amazing stuff. You'll be able to find it all there. Michael, if they see something they like or they want something custom made like I did, should they just message you on Instagram?
yeah, just reach out to me. You can also email me at mjbleather@gmail.com or
Awesome.
just reach out to me on Instagram. I post bowls every week. I don't post holsters until I get an order, but you
Mm-hmm.
can also get holsters from me. I make all whole variety of holsters,
Yeah.
and they're all uh, on the Instagram page, so you can
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah. Awesome. Michael, it's been such an honor and such a joy having you on this program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And take care and tell Amy I said hello.
I will.
All right. All right, everybody. We're going to take a very quick break. I've got a few things to wrap up this weekend on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, I did a little bit of a wardrobe change. If you are perceptive, like I am not, by the way, you will notice that I changed my earrings, and that's because Michael's wife, Amy, who we were just talking about, she also is in on the biz and she has spectacular painting skills. And these are leather earrings that Michael made. And then she did this beautiful mosaic, like stained glass pattern on these earrings. So I love them. And I have very flimsy earlobes. It's genetic. My mom is the same thing. Pretty much the last 5 years, I've been mulling over the idea of figuring out how to restitch my earlobes. I know it's terrible, but I have these like long slits in my ears because my earlobes are like paper thin. So it is very important for me, especially when I'm on air. I need to have big, bold earrings that make a splash, but they just can't be heavy. And I'm always so envious of women who have very robust, substantial earlobes and they can throw on these massive, chunky earrings. But you know what? This is even better because it's lightweight, it's not damaging my ear, and it's just beautiful. And I love it. I love the drop. It's the perfect size for me. So moving on from that, Speaking of the painting, some of you, if you were tuning in for the last segment, you heard me mention the custom holster that Michael made for me. So this is the beautiful holster that he made for me. And as I said, it's got the state of Alabama flag on there, along with alternating red and white painted dots. And I mean, the detail on this, I mean, you see even the raised dots around the red and white painted dots. It's just spectacular. And it is molded perfectly for my Smith & Wesson 38 special. That is, look, in Los Angeles, we're not allowed to have EDCs, everyday carry, with respect to a gun. But if I was able to carry here in Los Angeles, this would be my EDC holster, because the 38 special is what I've had. When I moved out to Los Angeles, my dad put that 38 special in my hand and said, you keep this with you. And I've had it with me ever since I moved here. So beautiful, beautiful craftsmanship. It, of course, has a belt loop on the back with his logo. And it also, when you put that, and I can't put the gun in here because I don't think we can post this video on YouTube if I have the gun in there. Anyway, when I put the 38 special in there, it snaps into place. So it literally locks in there. So you can feel this click when it goes in there. So you know that it's nice and tight and secure. Okay, moving on in our show and tell edition of Small Business Saturday. This is what I was talking about, the cast iron skillet handle holder. Because if you own a cast iron skillet and it's not one of these new agey ones that has some type of silicone coating on the handle, you know how freaking hot those things can get. Stinking hot, so much that it will literally boil your hand. So this is perfect. Of course, it has the little slot. It's very substantial. It's very, very sturdy. So I just slide it on the edge of that handle, or on the end of that handle. And Amy again did her beautiful painting on here. This is kind of a metallic paint that I love. And some of you know that I am in my 70s mob wife era. So I absolutely love the kind of daisy vintage pattern that she painted on here. Amy also, by the way, painted the Alabama flag and the dots on here. And then the item of the hour that we were talking about probably the most, his woodworking skills, his wood turning skills. This is that beautiful, and it's so big, I'm going to have to back up. This is this beautiful Chilean mesquite bowl that he made me. And this thing is solid, it's heavy. But it is beautiful. It has these beautiful knots on the inside. I mean, he just absolutely turned it magnificently. It's just beautiful and sturdy. It's got his, again, you know, he wrote on the bottom, 9/3/24. That's when he turned it. MJ Brown, Vale, Arizona, number 56. So if you have any need for any type of item like this, I encourage you all to look out for him. So I'm going to make sure you have all of his coordinates on Instagram. Again, it is Michael_John_Brown. And you can go on there, and he has a ton of other holster pictures and pictures of these. These are so great and handy. So I get it that sometimes a holster is going to be geared more towards men, unless you're a girl raised in the South. But the bowls, I mean, these are just wonderful, wonderful gifts for people as well. And I say people because I know a lot of men who cook with cast iron too and make salads. So awesome, awesome, awesome gifts to give anyone, and an unbelievably reasonable price. You're going to be absolutely blown away. Like I said, that bowl at Williams-Sonoma would be $200 at least, at the very least, and it would not be as good quality. You'd have no idea where it was actually made, because there are really, really shady requirements when it comes to what threshold you have to meet for it to say made in the USA or made in France or whatever. If you guys don't know this about meat, and I'm going to get on a little bit of a tangent here, when it comes to meat, the meat that you buy at the grocery store, it can be meat from literally China. It can be chicken from a factory in China that has had no room to roam, has been fed iron pellets. But if it comes to the States and they put American plastic wrap on it, legally, according to the FDA, they can put a label on it that says product of the USA. So these items, you know exactly where they're coming from. And look, especially for something like a wooden bowl that you're going to have fruit in, I'm going to use it for salad. I'm going to put, sometimes I love using cloth napkins. So put a cloth napkin in there and put bread in it. I'm going to use it for a million different things. And I want to make sure that I know exactly where it came from. I know exactly what Michael put on that bowl as far as the finish and it being food safe so that I know I can consume it and it's not going to be toxic. You cannot pay for that type of confidence in what you are eating. So, or what you are using for the stuff that you are eating. So everybody go check him out on Instagram. Again, Michael_John_Brown. You can also go to my Instagram to check out some of the items that he has posted. And then also his email, which is MJB for Michael John Brown leather@gmail.com, and reach out to him and support him. No better person to purchase these types of products from. So I hope you all have enjoyed this Small Business Saturday episode of Furthermore with Amanda Head. Remember, we have our regular audio version of the podcast that comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can find it on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Furthermore with Amanda Head, you can find me on social media at Amanda Head and the podcast on X at Furthermore Pod. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on Monday.